Hi, it's Chris. There's some questions about classical conditioning, so I'm going to review it real quick for you. I'm going to give you a real life example. When my daughter was about 3, we were down Ocean City, Maryland, and we were crossing the street. A pickup truck drove by with a bunch of teenagers, and they were hooting and hollering and yelling, and they came kind of close to us, and they scared her. The next day, she started reporting that she was afraid of the orange hand. Now, why in the world would a 3-year-old be afraid of an orange hand? What it was while we were crossing the street, the orange hand was in fact flashing, and she associated that orange hand with the scare that she got from when the teenagers were yelling. Classical conditioning is a process by which a previously neutral stimulus, in this case the orange hand, acquires the capacity to elicit a response through association with a stimulus that already elicits a similar or related response. So in other words, she linked the orange hand with the yelling, screaming, the thing that scared her, and now just seeing the orange hand elicits a response. Whenever I'm trying to figure out the unconditioned stimulus, the conditioned stimulus, the responses, I always draw it out. I think that's going to help you. So my suggestion is for you to draw some boxes and to follow this method. On the left side, you're always going to have the stimulus, and that makes sense because the stimulus happens first. On the right side, you're going to have the response. The response is always going to be some sort of behavior, a feeling. It's going to be something that you can observe or something that the subject's going to be able to report. A lot of times I think the response is the easiest thing to figure out because when you read the blurb or if you're talking to somebody, you can just think, well, what type of behavior or what kind of emotion did they have? So in this situation, the response is my daughter was scared or frightened, and it was because of the teens yelling. So she was scared, frightened. That would be the response. Now you ask yourself, did any learning happen? Well, no learning had to happen if somebody was frightened. So we have yelling, loud teens. So if somebody's yelling and they startle you, you don't have to learn anything in order to be scared. So these would be unconditioned. Unconditioned means no learning has happened. So ask yourself, does it make sense? This is a really good question. Does it make sense that yelling loud teens could scare or frighten a toddler? The answer should be yes. It should make sense that the unconditioned stimulus caused the unconditioned response. So what happens with classical conditioning is a stimulus, a neutral stimulus is, here the neutral stimulus, the orange hand, is linked with something that already causes a response. So the orange hand, it's neutral. It wouldn't have caused any response, but because it was linked with the yelling of the loud teens, this now can cause a response. So we have the neutral stimulus, the orange hand, after it was linked, is now causing the conditioned response, which is being scared or frightened. Couple questions I usually get. Do the conditioned response and the unconditioned response, they need to be the same thing? Well, no, they don't actually need to be the same thing, but they are often very similar. For example, you wouldn't find one that was, happy and laughing and the other one being scared and frightened. They tend to be similar, but sometimes they can evolve. So you might have scared and frightened the first time, but then panic attacks, as you move up. So again, just to give you a couple pointers, the first one, the unconditioned stimulus and response, they should make sense. It should make sense that this stimulus causes this response because no learning is needed. With the conditioned stimulus, it typically doesn't make sense because this is neutral. An orange hand should not cause somebody to be scared or frightened, but because they were linked, it now is causing the same response as this loud yelling teens. Please feel free to give me a call if you have any questions about this.